So I want to welcome everybody to the call today. My name is Michael Brown, and I have another very powerful interview here with another fellow Mankind Project warrior brother. I'm very, very excited about this call today, and I'm going to introduce this man. He's going to share about his book that he wrote. And before I introduce him, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Michael Brown, and I'm a spiritual life coach, and what I do is I help people turn their dreams into reality. You can find out more about me and what I do by going to my website at mikebrowncoaching.com. And you can also get a free video e-course there and an e-book on how to turn your dream into reality. And I'm also the author of a book called You Are a Gift to the World, Blessings from My Mom. And you can get a free chapter of that book at youareagift.com. So now I want to move forward into introducing the person I'm going to interview today. And this man is a contemporary spiritual teacher and author. He's followed a passion for spiritual understanding, relationship improvement, and healthy living since a young age. This passion was a result of his own suffering and the desire to find a way out. Although very successful in many worldly supports, he found that something very important always seemed to be missing. It was this quest for something deeper and more meaningful that led him to his own spiritual awakening in this work. His message incorporates his experiences with religion, psychology, spirituality, addiction recovery, martial arts, and over 13 years of intense personal growth study. His formal education includes a bachelor's degree from the University of Texas of Communications and a master's degree in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. He offers individual counseling, books, articles, courses on relationship communication, spirituality, and personal growth. And today he's going to share his book that he wrote about, which is called The Spiritual Prescription for Transforming Relationships, The Enlightened Way to Love, Peace, and Connection. So, with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Mike Biles. Welcome, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Mike. How you been doing?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely wonderfully. How are you doing, young man?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thank you.
Where would you like to start?
Yeah, I think a good place to start is, we could just jump right into your book. And, just want to ask you, what is, your book, The Spiritual Prescription, Transforming Relationships. What's the book about, Mike?
Well, the book is really about finding a deeper way to love. For many years, I was struggling, kind of bought into the whole myth of finding one person and getting married and having a successful career and all that. And I tried many different things, different women. Nearly got married, and I realized that love wasn't really where I thought it was supposed to be. It wasn't where I was told it was going to be. And this book really demystifies things, myths like the Cinderella story, and a whole great number of myths that have spun off from that way of thinking and that story of there's one person out there who's going to make you happy, marrying the prince and the princess kind of thing of wealth will make you happy. I mean, a lot of common things that a lot of people already know about that have studied spirituality and personal growth. But it's something that's really got it so deeply ingrained in our culture and our belief system that it's almost that we can't help but buy into it because we're surrounded by it. So the spiritual prescription is a different way of looking at love. And in my experience, it's the way that really works. It's the way that's really deeply satisfying. It's what we're all really craving. There's one of the things that really got me interested in the subject was realizing how many people are out there looking and not finding him. And we've got 150 million plus people right now that are, there's 150% prescriptions of antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs being given out every year. I think the marriage statistics now for first-time divorces is somewhere around close to 70%. People get married and get divorced in 12 years. And so all these people are out looking for something, and they're hurting, and they're not finding it. And people aren't talking about it that much. So this book takes you on an experiential path to finding, something really, some real connection, something that's really going to be rewarding and deeply fulfilling. And it happens from the inside, not the outside. So that's a long answer to what the book is about, but it's really a book of demystifying the Cinderella story and taking you on a path to really greater love and connection.
Awesome. And let me ask you, Mike, you're saying, there's all these people out here and they're looking for something, they're looking for relationships, and I think you allude to this in your book as well, but I'm just, I want to ask you, what do you think people are really looking for when they're looking for another mate or they're looking for a relationship?
Well, I think what most people are ultimately looking for, when you look on a really deep level, is they're looking to experience love. And what exactly is love? I think that's something that for most of my life, I really had no idea what it was. I knew I wanted it. I was supposed to have it, and I was supposed to find it in a woman. One day I'd find, the story goes, or the myth goes, that one day you'll find a beautiful girl who's right for you, and she'll make you happy, and you'll find love. And so we seek for love in things outside of ourselves, and people outside of ourselves. Also as a man, I'm sure, Mike, you probably grew up with the same myth that one day you'll find you'll find your career and you'll be successful, and then you'll be happy. You'll be a sports hero or a movie star or a powerful businessman, and then you'll be happy. People don't directly say that to us, but that's kind of what we're led to believe by the way society advertises to us and the way people talk to us. And, I bought into all that. And it wasn't until I was about 30 that I realized, hey, this is not paying off. I had a lot of money. I was making six figures when I was 28 years old and had a beautiful girlfriend I was about to marry. And, I had everything, really, that a guy could want. And I was impressed. I was going the wrong way.
Wow. So what happened with you during that time right there, Mike? When you were making six figures and you had this woman, you're about to get married. What was there like a point? Was there like a breaking point, or you said you were depressed even though you had all the external things that the world told you should have, right? Was there like a moment in time where you just there was a breakthrough or a break?
There was a moment where I was actually I remodeled real estate, and I was in a property that I owned. It was totally gutted. It was kind of metaphorical for my place in life. I was sitting inside this empty downtown condo. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was thinking about all the things that I had in my life and what more I needed. I was realizing I wasn't happy, and I thought, oh, I get a lake house. I'll get a place on the beach. And I was just very driven, very type A personality. And as I was going through all these things that I thought I wanted and needed, maybe I should marry the woman I'm seeing, or maybe I should just break up with her and go find somebody else. It was just all this stuff racing through my head. And I heard this voice that said, more of the same will only bring you more of the same. And I didn't really know what that meant.
What was that? Say that again, Mike.
More of the same will only bring you more of the same. So as my mind was, more of the same will only bring you more of the same.
More of the same will only bring you more of the same.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So as I was thinking more of what I already had, I wasn't a multi-millionaire or anything like that. I mean, there's certainly a lot of people who are wealthier than I was by far. But, I had more than I needed. And this message was, call it spirit or my inner self, was telling me that, all the stuff I'm getting is not working. And that was the beginning of it. It took me probably another year of hearing that voice before I really started to look at myself, got into some counseling, and went to a warrior weekend and really started to dig into, what it meant to be a man and how I wanted to live and what really made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the moment. That was a decisive moment. And I heard the voice, but I really wasn't ready to listen to it for probably another year of struggle.
Mm. Mm. I got it, man. I got it. And so, there's some things in your book, specifically that you have in there, that you talk about. Like, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is you talk about, how you can change a relationship for the better without changing the other person or changing anything about them. Can you speak to that, Mike?
Yeah, that's very important skill to learn in any relationship. And I had a teacher at the University of Santa Monica that used to say this a lot. You may remember this, Mike. He used to say that how a relationship is how you hold another inside yourself.
Mm.
So, and that can be how I hold myself inside myself, or how I hold another person inside myself. It's the thoughts, beliefs, and experiences that I have inside me about somebody else, which kind of determines how I show up and how I act and how I react to the relationship that I'm in. So the real work is not about changing another person, which is what so many of us are taught and conditioned to believe, that, if I can only get them to stop drinking, or if only I can get them to show me more affection, I'm going to be happy. I'll get what I want. So a lot of us, we spend a lot of our time trying to change our partners or manipulate our family members to be the people we want them to be. The real way to change that relationship is by changing the way I experience them, the amount of love I give and the amount of acceptance I have for who they are and where they are. The real work is about me changing my attitude and becoming more loving and less judgmental. Anytime I want to change somebody, I'm judging that they're not right the way they are, and that experience, that thought of judgment, they're not good enough, they're not right, takes me to a place of fear and discontent. Just that thought of wanting to change somebody is going to be upsetting to me. And it's one of those kind of subtle things that you don't really notice until you really start paying close attention to how that thought instantly changes the way you feel inside. So if you start to think negatively about your partner, just notice how quickly your body and the way you feel, your emotions start to change. So by changing the way you think, the way you feel and believe about the people in your life, especially the way you think and believe about yourself, makes the whole world experience show up in a different way.
I got that. And along those lines, Mike, because I know, just for people listening out there, and I get what you're saying, change your thinking and your feelings about it. And I think sometimes that can be a challenge, or that can be difficult too, because sometimes it feels like our thinking just happens or our feelings just happen. So can you maybe speak to that a little bit more, like how exactly do you, if you have like a predominant thought or predominant feelings that just seem to always be there and they don't seem to go away, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's a simple fix and sometimes it's much more complicated. depending on what the feeling is. If it's deep pain, sorrow, sadness, grief, fear, sometimes I would need a lot more work around it, a lot more processing, either with my therapist or with my men's group or with somebody who can help me, a spiritual teacher. And I always had to purge a lot of my emotions. If I was feeling pain and sadness, which I had years and years of grief, of unrelieved grief in me, and I was always trying to avoid more pain and always trying to protect myself. So it took me a while to express all my grief, and that just showed up as crying, sobbing, anger, working through that and expressing my feelings. That's one way to get through a lot of it. Now, there's other times where things just pop up in my head, like when I was writing this book. I was having thoughts of, oh, nobody's going to want to read this. You're not really doing this. Is crap, and it's not going to be any good, and you don't know what you're doing, and thoughts like that. They have a base to what you could process around, but it's really I just need to get rid of this thought. I need to manage my thought. I need to eject this thought, stop the tape from playing, and just choose not to listen to it. And it's really a simple process. Of course, it's kind of an insidious thing. It keeps coming back, and I have to keep saying, this is not true. This is not true. And what is true? What can be true? And believe in that. And it's just about changing our thoughts when the negative ones show up. Ejecting the tape. So
awesome.
That depends, It really just depends on how much trouble those thoughts are causing as to what path of action you're going to take to get rid of them.
Yeah. No, that's perfect, brother. That's awesome. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, Mike, about that's in your book, you talk about what it means to have a spiritual relationship, and if you could just share with us, what does it mean to have a spiritual relationship?
This is an interesting topic that I've talked to, especially a lot of women about, and a lot of people often think that a spiritual relationship is just going to be one where people are like perfectly matched, soulmates, match made in heaven. They show up and it's just perfect. Everything fits. There's never any fight. There's never any problems. Everything is beautiful and always loving. Well, we got to temper that with that we're human beings and that we have wounds, and that nothing is ever going to be perfect. And the spiritual aspect of it, bringing that into the relationship, really means trying and working to see yourself and your partner with completely unconditional, non-judgmental loving. And the way to think of that is you're created by God's Spirit, the source, the universe, whatever you choose to call a supreme or divine power. You were created not by yourself. You were created by this force, and you're created perfectly just as you are. Now, a lot of things come along in our life that cause us to start judging ourselves, and then as we judge ourselves, we judge others as wrong, bad, incomplete, inadequate, not good enough. And when we take on that role as a judge, we become, this is my opinion of it, we take on the role of God, so to speak. It's not my right to judge you. It's how you are. I didn't create you. You were created by something much more powerful than me. And what gives me the right to judge you? So the spiritual relationship really comes down to looking upon oneself and another from a God-like vision, with unconditional love and acceptance. Seeing the soul in somebody else, seeing the loving, innocent essence in somebody, and not judging them for their wounds and behaviors. Now, don't get that confused as being all spiritual and unconditionally loving is a wonderful place to be, and it's where I think we all should strive for. However, there's certain times where you have to protect your own physical body in the physical world. It's like you don't want to let a heroin addict who's dangerous and deeply in his addiction. You may not want them to be in a certain area of your life. May not be healthy, may not be safe. Somebody who's going to harm you, steal from you. You have to have healthy boundaries. Just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you make foolish choices. So there's a way to be loving, but also to protect your physical body from harm. I had a teacher once tell me, he said, you may have to throw her out of your apartment, but you don't have to throw her out of your heart. So by somebody, you may have to kick them out of your life, but you don't have to stop loving them and throw them out of your heart.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, Mike, thank you for that, brother. And another thing you talk about in your book is, how to have love that no one can ever take away. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to that spiritual love idea. What's the source of love? Where does it come from? What's the source of creativity? Where does that come from? Where does a new thought come from? It comes from beyond us in some respect. It's like it shows up for us. The love that I'm talking about, that I'm wanting everybody to experience, is the kind of love that shows up from beyond you, the spiritual thing, the divine experience. It comes from an unconditional, never-ending source, and it comes from deep within you, and it's expressed out of you, and that's how, by giving to another and finding that love, that never-ending well of it that's inside of you, you'll never be lacking as long as you're out giving, loving, being loving towards others. So much of us are taught to believe that love comes from somebody else, that we get love. The love that I need is going to come from somebody else. But the truth of it, and you can experience this yourself, is that love comes, the love that we all really want comes from giving love to others. There's a saying in the Course in Miracles that whatever's lacking in any situation is the love I'm not giving, or something like that. But basically it's saying whatever I'm feeling lacking, or whatever's not showing up in a situation, all I got to do is love more, and that's going to correct it. For example, let's say you're with your partner and you break up, and it's a tough breakup, and you're feeling lots of pain, and you're upset and all that. The only thing that's going to make that situation better is not what they say. It's not them coming back. It's not them leaving. It's just you loving more. The more pain that you have, the more love you need to give. That's not easy to do, but that's what works. And it works every time if you do it.
I love that, man. I love that. That's awesome. That's beautiful, brother. And so, Mike, we got a few more minutes to go here. But, before we wrap it up, but before we do that, I want to ask you, what's one of the most important things do you think people need to change about the way they approach relationships?
I would say that probably the number one thing that most people struggle with is the belief that somebody else is responsible for the way I feel. That it's your fault that I'm upset. I'm mad because of what you did. I'm upset because of the way you treated me. I'm upset because of what you said or what you did or didn't do. That's a classic one. And I think that causes more relationship problems than anything else. And what we're doing when we do that with somebody is we're giving them our power. We're saying, you have, by the way you behave, you're going to have control over how I feel and experience my life. To me, that's just crazy. I mean, there's all kinds of people doing all kinds of things, and if we let them have power over our mood and our emotional experience, our life, then what do we have? We're just puppets. So, one thing, if you really want to change your life and your relationships, is take your power back. If people want to be crazy and act angry and threatening and bizarre, whatever they do, you just let them have that, and don't make it about you. Just sit back and say, this is not about me. This is their experience. They're angry at me. They're sad but disappointed with me, whatever it is. You got to stay solid in who you are. Know who you are and just stay centered, calm and centered in that place. Don't let somebody else's behavior determine your state of being. If you can do that one thing, that'll probably make the biggest change in your relationship. Yeah.
What comes up for me when you say that, Mike, is I think people do that also with the opposite, even with good feelings. Like, people say, you make me happy. Yeah. Even with the positive feelings, people, it's like in our languaging, the way that we talk to each other. You make me angry or you make me happy.
Exactly. And people support that, too, in each other.
Yeah, they do.
I can't believe he did that to you. I can't believe he made you feel that way. Or, he must be perfect for you because he makes you feel this way. It's a very dangerous thing to be in. And like you say, the positive is by thinking somebody else is the source of your happiness is equally as dangerous. Because really the source of our happiness is our relationship with our spiritual self. That's the source. The source is inside us, not outside us. So every time you're in a relationship and you're thinking that this person is perfect and they're going to be the source of your happiness, better check yourself, because it won't be long before you realize they're the source of your pain.
I got it. Awesome, Mike. Okay, well, Mike, I want to thank you so much for coming on this call today and joining us. It was great to hear, from you and about your book. And, before we go, do you want to share with people about how they can get a hold of you, whether it's your website, a phone number, or where they can get your book?
Sure, yeah, thanks. My name again is Mike Biles, and that's spelled B-I-L-E-S, and my website is mikebiles.com. There's also a book site called thespiritualprescription.com, and you can reach me through both those websites.
Awesome. So again, Mike, I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I want to thank all the listeners for coming out here and listening to Mike. And I highly recommend you go get his book. It is an awesome book. So you take good care, Mike. And
thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're most welcome, brother.